Hey, Steady Steve, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon. Click on subscribe. It's 100% free. Blood in, blood out. And don't forget to click on the notifications just so you don't miss any amazing content. I've seen the start of this one talking about why successful black women can't find anybody to marry, but it really applies to all types of women. It's a very interesting dynamic from a woman's perspective about why they can't find a man when they go up the income ladder. And there's going to be an interesting perspective from a man, so bear with me. Trust me, not to be missed. Here we go.
I've talked a lot about this before and people didn't like it too much, like men in particular. But I do think it is a lot harder to date as a woman high earner, and especially as a black woman high earner. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that is the case, but generally speaking, it is harder to date. And in my experience, one thing that I have noticed is that men, when they like come into your sphere, especially if you're someone who's not necessarily like withdrawn or or like quiet per se, right, like you have opinions, and they don't like that.
It's not the fact that you have an opinion. That's not the issue. Okay, for the most part, men don't mind you having an opinion. It's the fact that, are you annoying? Right? Are you annoying to the point where I can't stand you and you're just a nuisance, really, right? Are you throwing your degree and diploma in my face? Do you have your self-entitled attitude, stinking up the place, right? What is your attitude saying? That's what I'm more curious about, not necessarily you providing your feedback. It's not a dictatorship. It's not, right? It's about, as a leader, as a man, it's also about being a great listener as well. Okay, listening to your partner or your significant other and kind of going from there. But if you're just straight up annoying and I can't, and I can't stand your attitude, yeah, that's going to be a problem, right? That, or, maybe you're just talking to the wrong guy, but 9 out of 10 times, the attitude is a problem when it comes to these types of women. But let's keep going.
They just want you to like shut up and be.
Yeah, we hear him about attitude, and I think attitude is kind of built into expectations. The late great Kevin Samuels nailed this. I can't tell you how many of his videos that I've watched. I did not agree with all of them, but I think there was core principles, and obviously there's a huge element of truth. One of those things was there's a pyramid, right? There's a pyramid in terms of kind of career progression. Obviously, CEO at the top, right? There's a pyramid. As you go up that ladder, you earn more money, right? Which is fine, and she's done very well, and congratulations to her. She's saying she has to be withdrawn, or the men are slightly withdrawn, maybe obviously because she's, they're intimidated by her having some kind of role, and that she has to be quiet in order to be kind of like successful in a relationship, and she can't have opinions. But going back to what Kevin Samuels said, which is, I think, the broader truth, most women cannot respect somebody who's not on exactly the same level, and she will talk on this a little bit later. So either on the same level, or she won't respect you, you won't be considered, you'll be to the wayside, you'll be one and gone. You know what I mean? Oh, what do you do? Gone, right? All right. Shield goes up. Or she's used to a certain type of lifestyle, which is in that top bracket. Now, if you can't finance that top bracket lifestyle, also barriers go up. She's off to the way, you're off to the wayside, and she's kind of wondering why she can't meet a man. Now, the people at that top bracket, as you go up, is a smaller and smaller percentage. And Beast Mode's going to talk about this later. So not only do you start off from a very small percentage, and especially if you're looking for a black man, so it's going to be even smaller percentage, and it's got to be over a certain income, smaller percentage. And if she's got other kind of things that she's looking for in terms of, generally height, which Beast Mode mentions later, an agreeable person and compatibility and and this, all the kind of little niches and all these kind of trivial icks, which may or may not be there. It turns up you got absolutely no chance. And you got to balance that up with, in herself, she still needs to be attractive, and she needs to be engaged, and she needs to be good company. She needs to be the right side of the body clock if he wants to have kids and things like that, and most men do, and all these types of things. You know what I mean? So listen, let's go nuclear, right? So I didn't want to go too deep too soon, but we're here now. So Kevin Samuels said, basically, in terms of a woman can only respect a man that kind of pays the way. And we're talking about this traditional, he went to the extreme. So just bear with me. So what he said, well, okay, the only way that a woman in that situation where she's a high earner can respect a man is if she kind of gives her income to him as a household. Since we're talking about kind of these kind of traditional roles, you've got household income. She'd have to give her income to him as a man, you know what I mean, as the leader, bear with me, then he can pay for everything. Then he can pay for everything through their joint income. There you go. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it's one of those slow burners. Trust me, it's one of those slow burners. It's as ridiculous as it, and it's never going to happen. And that's why what she said, also the woman before said, most women that she knows in those kind of brackets don't ever meet a man. Just food for thought. Let's go.
Quiet and just be behind them, and that's not me. But also, like, others of them, they're just jealous, and obviously it's not like they're saying to you, "Oh, I'm jealous," but you can see that they're jealous because they'll make like snide comments, or they'll be like, or like little things along those lines. Or some of them, I wouldn't attribute this one to jealousy, but just more so like they want to be kept. They'll say like, "You're the one with all the money," you know. And sometimes jokingly, we're just like, "Okay," but that's not a funny joke if I don't know you. So I will say, like, for those reasons, it is a lot harder. But also another reason it's harder in.
I can't let that go. I can't let that go. So again, so even if a man is not doing the extreme that Kevin Samuels was saying, but she's got a certain lifestyle, she can afford to go to the Nobu. I keep saying Nobu because it's like I don't know what the it's about £200 a meal. Let's just say that you can have less, of course you can. Expect to pay about £200 a meal. You know what I mean? Most people can't afford that. She probably can afford it, but not everybody can. So if she's just going to have a casual meal at the Nobu's, nothing at all, it's like, just spare change kind of money, that's fine. Congratulations to her. But if she's expecting the average man to be able to do that and keep on financing her lifestyle, or financing this ridiculous high lifestyle beyond what he can afford, it's never going to happen, and she's always going to be single. So you need to kind of weigh up what her goals are. This is for the ladies out there. So you either realistic. I mean, if you've got brothers, just think about your brothers in those situations, especially if they're kind of regular men. You know what I mean? Have that kind of empathy for the position of a man, and also kind of have some realistic perspective if you actually want to date. You know what I mean? Can this man and should this man finance your lifestyle, or should you meet him in the middle? Or if you are the extreme high earner, maybe you do need to cover those meals and be realistic that he can only chip in with what he can realistically afford. Long story short, it has to be in the zone of what's realistic. There you go.
I think is because once you are making above a certain amount, you usually have a certain kind of lifestyle. And if you want to maintain that lifestyle, but also include your significant other in that lifestyle, they do have to be making within that range, right? I'm not saying that I will only date someone who makes more than me. That's absolutely not the case. But you do need to be probably making, like low to mid six figures, somewhere like 200 or higher.
She's talking about $200,000 or more, $250,000, right? You start to add the filters. He can't be married, of course. He can't be in a relationship. He has to be probably 6 feet or taller. He can't be gay. He can't be overweight, right? You start to strip away the men that are available, and it's less than 1% of the population. I'm just saying. These modern women gravitate towards the money instantaneously. They don't talk about a man's character. They don't talk about his moral compass. They don't talk about, would he be a good father? Would he be a good husband? Right? They don't talk about any of these things initially, primarily. They don't talk about that, okay? They talk about the money.
In order for us to have the lifestyle that
100% Beast Mode. I've done lots of videos as well like this, and he's just hit the nail on the head. And listen, this is absolutely true what he said. How often do you hear these, how often do you watch these videos of ladies kind of reciting their experiences in kind of the dating world? How many times do you hear them focus on the fundamentals? About whether he's got a good character, whether he's good company, about this and about that, and also about how they kind of made an effort in order to try and facilitate. You know what I mean? Say if he isn't a good speaker and maybe he's feeling a little bit kind of tense in the moment or something like that, because he's a human. And she just kind of made him a little bit more at ease. And there's a lot of women who can do that. You know what I mean? But there's a lot who are just kind of just there, almost like kind of waiting for you to fail. You know what I mean? And haven't got that kind of right kind of positive energy and mindset that they actually want this thing to work. Anyway, let's go.
Envision myself living, and mind you, I'm still working towards the lifestyle that I want to be living. But if I like to take vacations and I like to buy, diversify my investments and do all these different kinds of things, you need to be able to do that too, right? Like, I'm not here just funding your lifestyle. We need to be able to do this together. And so naturally, you have to have some sort of cushion on your own before you come into my sphere, before we can even really get along or be in the same like tax bracket. But again, I wouldn't say like he has to make more than me, but he does need to make close to it, or somewhere that would allow him to still be in that same area or same arena of what it is.
You know, I'm going to make a bold, sorry to keep stopping it, but this is, I just come to right now. I'm going to make a bold prediction for the future. I'm going to make a bold prediction for the future. We are in a position of equality now in society. And I think there's a lot of ladies who kind of adjust into that new reality, I think there is more of a discourse about that kind of the wall and the biological clock. Traditionally, no matter what income a woman's been on, a man has financed her. You know what I mean? You've got the Idris Elbas of the world that financed a lovely girl, a lovely woman, a great couple, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely lovely, genuinely. But at the end of the day, she was a waitress. And now she's kind of like a business owner financed by him. And he's got many other businesses. And he's brought her forwards in terms of status, right? It's very rare for a woman to do that today. What I'm predicting is going forwards, this may well do a complete 180 the way things are going. Because what I'm saying is, I think at some point there will be a realization for a lot of ladies, not only because of income, but also because of body clock, that if they actually want a relationship, then they're going to have to be the ones who are a bit more proactive about it. I predict this. I don't know how many years it's going to be, but at some point there's going to be a tipping point, and that's going to be the norm. And I know I'm talking like out the like in the fourth dimension now, but I think it will get there eventually. And to be honest, the more you think about it, the more sense that makes. Again, because there's certain people who are against that clock, and the other side of that clock is I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's a much more difficult. You're probably going to be looking to date men who have already got kids, or the very small percentage who don't want kids at all, or things of that sort. You know what I mean? Which kind of adds a layer of complexity. Other than that, I think we're going to have to make a lot more effort. Anyone else go?
Of what my lifestyle is like and what I'm hoping it to be, right? Because the goal for me is at least to build generational wealth, and you can do that from a full-time job. I work full-time, but I also have significant side hustles, and yeah, it takes a lot of time, but to me it's worth it, right? Because I'm young, I have the time, I have the energy, and then later on in life, I'm just going to be able to like chill and just live off of what the hard work that I've been putting in now. You had replied to this and also asked about like splitting expenses and different things like that. I don't believe in, like merging money or anything like that unless I am married, which I am not. And so I wasn't doing any of that. In terms of like dating, I still do think a man, especially for the first few dates, needs to be paying for the dates. Like they need to be doing the courting, the courtship, all of that. To kind of sum up, because it's just long.
So she wants a traditional man to pay the bills and to take her out on dates. But at the same time, she wants to be hustling and bustling in the workforce, right? And listen, I have no issues with a woman working and bettering herself. Okay, she mentioned generational wealth. I think that's important for sure. But, she's saying that she wants a traditional man when she's not necessarily a traditional woman, right? Because she's talking about a man needs to come into her sphere, into her world. When in reality, she should be going into a man's world, right? A man is leading the relationship or marriage. But as we're learning extremely quickly here, she has no intention in necessarily being behind a man and following a man. Okay, she wants to be out here, boss babe, career diva, guru, what have you, and getting her money. But at the same time, she wants a man to protect and provide, but yet come into her world. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But let's keep going here.
Dating is a lot more difficult.
No, it makes a very good point. And I say she kind of dropped these little things in, like, very quickly. She's not willing to split anything at all, I think she said as well. And she's got all her little side hustles. But she does expect him to pay for all the first dates and things like that. And listen, at the end of the day, he is chatting her up. So there's going to be some level of kind of investment. But she's still talking about maintaining lifestyle. That's the problem. It's not that in chatting her up and making an effort that he doesn't do some nice things for her and treat her. But it's just those unrealistic expectations that the lifestyle is way beyond what he can afford to pay. And really beyond what he should pay on the left side of marriage. Until you're actually in a relationship, he's not your provider. He's not your provider. And while she has her side hustles, of course she can if somebody else is financing her lifestyle. If she's going date free, if she doesn't have to pay anything towards dates and he's got to cover everything, and what could have been a side hustle is wasted on an expensive dinner or on a flaming nails or something like that, then of course he can't have those side hustles, and she can, because she's got all that spare income, right? But at the same time, if he did kind of exclude himself from this type of woman who's kind of being unrealistic and somebody else who's more balanced, then he could have a more positive future. And guess what? That is what he should do. That is what he should do. But also, if you're going to kind of look the complete 360, for somebody to afford to finance her high-end lifestyle and still have side hustles, he needs to be on significantly more money than her, which kind of leads us into that fraction of 1%, not even 1%, fraction of 1% of men that she's looking for, which makes it incredibly unlikely, or over 99%, that it's not going to happen. And that's the problem.
Had also commented about like where to meet them. I also made a video on this that some people didn't like, but in my experience, there's multiple ways to meet men who are high earners or whatever it is you want to call them. And one of the easiest and best ways is to change your environment, right? If you're only hanging around other high earners or only hanging around other professionals or entrepreneurs or people who are like-minded, that is going to become your circle of influence. That is going to become your norm. And so naturally, you are going to meet those kinds of people. Like, for example, I was just at a conference and it was all attorneys. It was all big law attorneys. It was all in-house counsel. Right. And I was just there and they're just around me. Right. So that's an example. The weekend before I was at the Black Wealth Summit, like the same thing. Right. So being very intentional about the spheres that you're putting out and putting around yourself, your environment, who you're hanging around, who you're talking to, go to conferences, go to events, like do those different types of things where you're going to be in the space to meet those kinds of people. And if you're living somewhere that doesn't allow you to be in that kind of space, then you got to figure out a way to get up and get out and go put yourself in that kind of space or make some friends genuinely, because nobody wants like the fake stuff, to be able to cultivate that kind of experience for yourself. And that's what I found most helpful.
All right, guys, so there you have it. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know what you guys think.
What I think is that she's absolutely right. In order to find the person that you want to meet, you need to be in those circles. But what she didn't say is that she's actually met somebody. What she didn't say was when she's in those circles that she actually makes an effort. What she didn't say is when she's in those circles and she actually makes an effort and somebody kind of engages with her, that she's 100% about the fundamentals and being traditional or whatever, or being a nice person and making sure that she puts her best foot forwards and, you know what I mean, she's wifey material. You know what I mean? I don't know, maybe she can't mention everything in every conversation. It's either that, you know, those kind of time-limited things, or it's just not front of mind. What's the odds, given everything that she said and how kind of superficial she is about the money, to an extent? Listen, I do believe that men, right, our role is to provide, but it is for our families once we get to that stage, not for some kind of person we've just met. That's the difference. And I don't believe that we put that future money pot for that family and we waste it on some expensive bullshit dinners or some expensive bullshit shiny trinkets. That's what I believe, right? Work that one out. But how superficial she is, I'm not completely convinced that when she's in those areas that she's anything other than a princess. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Hopefully, I mean, she's gorgeous. I give her that. But hopefully she makes the most of those opportunities. So I'm not trying to be cruel, but in any situation, I guess it's for the ladies, I just hope that we don't have that kind of, what do you call it, like delusion of choice. There's a different way of putting it. I can't remember what it is. You're against the body clock. You know what I mean? And if you meet your future husband, you don't waste it. Okay, so if you're going to go down the superficial route, you know what I mean? Then, you know, you're kind of making that fraction of 1%. So if you meet him, just be about everything, about kind of not blowing it, basically, and just think ahead about those kind of values that men looking and women, that just being agreeable, being positive. If you're going to be traditional and you want him to do that, then you've got to do your side of the traditional, but we just want that kind of femininity and positivity and effort on both sides. And yeah, the things that you could have probably found at the men at lower income, to be fair. Anyway, let's go forwards.
Okay, I mean, listen, I have no issues with her going where successful men are. You know, if she's going to a certain location where these quote unquote rich men are, knock yourself out. But the reality is, do these rich men want you? Do they want you? Are they desiring a woman like you? Serious question. And if she's talking about a man needs to come into her sphere, she's talking about her degree, her diploma, her career. She needs to, you know, she needs to move up, or she's moving up, this, that, and the third. That's her primary objective. Yeah, a guy making $250,000, is that music to his ears, right? Serious question. Is that music to his ears? Probably not. I'm just saying. So these modern women, okay, I get that she's going where they're hanging out, but are you also putting in the work to be the very thing that these men want? Would you possibly not work so many hours to attend to your husband or your man? Will you not go for that promotion that's going to have you on the road or traveling more or away from the household? Are you going to decline that promotion so that you can have a work-life balance? I'm just saying, right? So when you start to peel back the layers, it comes down to their career and the money. All right, guys, so the next clip is going to be another black woman.
Before we go to the next clip, I'm going to split it into two parts. So this is going to be the end of the first part. But yeah, I think Beast Mode hit a few nails on the head, basically. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with being ambitious and achieving in their own career. But the angle that Beast Mode was going through right then was, listen, if he's on $250,000, right? So if you're going to be away a long time and invested in like studying up for your career, for her career, or going on business trips to the other side of the country and just basically absent, that's not what a high-end man's invested in. That's not what, you know what I mean. I think he'd rather have somebody who's actually going to be there and potentially be there for family and things like that, more so than just, I say, absent from the relationship. So again, these are the things where she in some ways needs to think about how she positions herself to be attractive to the man that she's trying to meet, basically. Very interested. There's going to be other angles which I haven't kind of covered myself. If there's something else you agree or disagree, respectfully, please put it in the comments. Part 2 will come up in very soon. That is Steve, and I am out.